Welcome to a very special Wine Facebook
Yay.
Live. We have finished Catechism of Hockey, but we loved spending time with the author so much. Alyssa, you had mentioned your trip on the Camino, and I thought, and you said we should talk about this, and I thought I'm going to take you up on it. So here we are. I'm taking you up on it.
Yay, thank you.
So let's talk about your pilgrimage. When did you go? When was your trip?
I left June 13th, 2016. And we decided to take 49 days to do the whole thing, although the last 10 days would really be vacation.
Oh, wow.
And so we were gone for 49 days. If I were to do it again, just to anyone listening, I think if you're very young, that you could walk the Camino in 30, 33 days, something like that. If you're old, just give yourself the number of days in your age to walk the Camino.
Oh, that's an interesting idea.
Just to add on vacation days after that. So if I went again, I would take 54 days, but really I'm super slow. I'd probably take 60 days to do it, to do the 500 miles. And then I could just walk exactly how little I wanted to each day. But some really in shape kids would walk 15 to 20 miles a day. They were crazy eights. That's all I'm saying.
That is insane. Mm-hmm. We have a friend from our Bible Babes who does it just about yearly.
Wow.
So a couple years ago, she actually ended up with a compound fracture in her leg just a few days in. But you know what? She's somebody we should have on here talking about it, because her story ended up being remarkable. Like the where she ended up, and she was with her son. It was so cool. But anyway, we're talking about your Camino trip.
Yes, it's all about me.
It is about you. It's totally about you. So I've only been on one pilgrimage. It was World Youth Day, and it's kind of funny that you said that in the end you took vacation time, because that was my one lesson.
Yeah.
Pilgrimage, it's not vacation.
No.
Not even close.
Not close.
Not even close. So tell me why go on to the Camino? Why?
A great question. I think the only reason to go is because you've been called. And that we all get called in a different way. I heard about it in 2004, and I thought, wow, this is really cool. And then I found a book in 2005 about it, and thought, boy, that's really neat. I want to do this. And I ended up eventually going with my stepsister in 2016. But it all comes down to this. Why go? Because I was called. Who called you? Jesus and St. James. That's it, right?
Yes, it seems like a good reason. How did you hear that call? Like,
I suppose I heard it in 2004 when I heard about the Camino in the first place. I was in Rome, and I lived at a residence with men and women, and the young seminarians were there. I was the middle-aged old lady down the hall. And there's these young seminarians from the minor seminary, and they had walked 7 days of the Camino, the last 7 days. And they told me about it. I thought, that's fantastic. And so here's the thing is, you get the call and you think, well, that's cool. I'm going to do that. And it's always someplace down the road in the future. And so it's just, I'm definitely going to do that one day. And you can talk really big when it's an unknown date.
Right.
But then you have a stepsister, and I have 6 brothers, a sister, 6 stepsisters, and 3 stepbrothers. That makes 17 of us. And my parents.
I'm glad you did the math, because you lost.
And I'm the youngest. I'm the baby. I beat out a set of twins by 10 days. My stepdad's youngest children are twins, and they're 10 days older than me. But
oh wow.
Yeah, it makes me still the baby, which is important. Obviously.
It is.
Mm-hmm. And so when you have a date just someplace in the future, you can talk big. Yeah, I'm definitely going to do that. Oh, I could walk 500 miles. You have this big idea. Oh, easy. That'll be awesome. I'll just do it some summer. It's so easy. Take a few weeks and away we go. And then my parents, my mom and stepdad, said, you won't believe this crazy idea Brenda has. She wants to walk this thing in Spain. I'm like, ding, 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 ding. And my parents were sort of laughing about how crazy Brenda was. And I said to my mom, no, I want to do that. I just need someone to do it with. And so Brenda and I talk now. The funny thing is, at that point, we'd only met each other maybe twice
Really?
at a wedding and at a reunion. I think that was it. And there you go. So we were talking, and sure, we're going to do that. And it ended up, we first went on a pilgrimage to Rome. We should do another story about that. Anyway, every week, my life. Uh, and, uh, and so anyway, we went to Rome, and then we really seriously talked about, we have to do the Camino. When are we going to do it? Let's do it next summer. She had some dates that she had to work with. I had the summer of, teaching and, or not teaching in the summer. And so we picked dates. And then I remember she called and said, are we really going to do it? Because I found plane tickets and we have to get them now. They're a really good price right now. Okay,
Wow.
let's do it. And as soon as I bought the ticket, my left hip started to hurt really bad. Is that so funny? I mean, bought the ticket, left hip hurts. Never hurt before. Left hip goes crazy.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, of course. And so the thing about setting a date is now you have this opportunity in front of you. You just spent, I think it was maybe $1,700 on these tickets because we're going to go this funny route. We weren't flying in and out of the same place. And so you have a boatload of cash you just put out. And you have a sister-in-law, or I'm sorry, my stepsister, Brenda, bugging me, we're going. So what I have found is that when you set a date, I have this written down, I was unprepared. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I did a couple preparations, but I was correcting papers instead of walking. When my friend came to pick me up, I had just finished the yearbook for the high school at 10 in the morning. And she came to pick me up, and I was paying bills for 2 months ahead. And she came, and my backpack is sitting there empty and all this stuff next to the backpack. And my friend picked me up to go to the airport, and she said, what's this? And I said, you're going to pack it. And anyway, so why go? You're called. And the funny thing is, once you set a date and buy the ticket, you find yourself locked in, which is terrifying and beautiful.
I'm looking at the people showing up, and
yes,
Ivana, I was just talking about her. She's my friend that I was saying that we needed to share her story.
I would love to hear hers too.
So, I know, Leanna, you're going to be typing, but can you just type in when you went and how far into the trip did your fracture happen? And she's going back. I think she went like the year after or 2 years after, and I think she's a rock star. I think anybody who will do this.
Yeah, you're part crazy. I mean, there's no doubt about it. You have got to be part crazy. So then when someone says you're going to go back, and you go, yeah, I think I will. That my stepsister might be going back next year. I don't know for sure if I'll ever go back because of my own limitations. Just had another surgery on my leg. But maybe there'll be a day. Who knows? It'll all depend.
So I guess that's the next question for you then, is how to go.
Yeah.
So how do we go? How do we make this happen if we're crazy enough to want to do this?
Well, here's the easy part is the physical things you need. You need a backpack. You need it fit to yourself. You need a pair of really good tennis shoes with a great grip that are meant for hiking. And you need some clothes and some other practical things, right? That's the practical part. And then just make your friend pack it in the bag when she gets here to pick you up for the airport. And then you kind of need a plan, but if you're me, you just have my stepsister Brenda, and she made all the plans. So I suggest if anyone wants to go, Brenda might be going next summer.
Bring Brenda.
Take Brenda.
Okay,
but otherwise get a guidebook and then start walking, or you could be like me and just be completely unprepared.
Ah, well, we've got some clarification. It seems like one of the other Bible babes tagged Leanna so she would see this conversation,
Oh,
but we don't see it that
oh,
way.
I
For
see.
us, it
Yeah,
looks like they've. So, all right, that makes sense why she used her entire name.
yeah.
Thank you, Nita, for clarifying and for tagging her. I'm sure she would much enjoy sharing her stuff later. So, there are guidebooks to do this.
Yeah,
This
there's all
crazy
sorts
trip.
of guidebooks, and we found Brenda found. When I say we, I mean Brenda. I didn't find crap. I luckily found my way to the airport and onto a plane with a backpack loaded with junk, and that I didn't put in there, right? And
Is that all you bring? Is a backpack?
yeah, 49 days, one backpack. Is that nuts? Me.
Huh. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
seriously, that's all. Like you have
Yeah.
like a suitcase with you for the vacation later, right?
No.
Just the backpack.
No. My stepdad did come to meet us, so I gave him a dress and I don't know, a couple little things to like just a few items to put in his bag to bring to me at the end, so I could have a dress to wear instead of the same. I had every day I wore these black I don't know, kind of like yoga pants, only they look like pants. And then a t-shirt and one of those thin sweatshirts that wicks away moisture. And I would take that off and tie it around my waist after it got a little bit sunny. And and then you get walking sticks. You get your walking sticks there, so you don't have to take them on the plane.
That
And
makes sense.
yeah, and away you go. And then at night, when you get to the place you want to be, you wash your clothes, and by that I don't mean a washing machine. I mean you hand wash with soap or something, and then you hope that it dries. If it's windy enough or hot enough that it dries, you take a few extra pairs of socks because you don't want to put wet socks on.
Yeah,
And
that's so bad for your feet.
yeah. And you take your shower at night because you don't want your feet to be soft from the shower. You want them to be dry. So when you put your walking shoes on, you don't have soft skin in a sense. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
So there's all these little practical things, but you can find all this junk in a guidebook. And you just dig around on the YouTube, or I mean actually Facebook has groups. There's all sorts of different groups. There's so much on the Camino and groups that go that you can find a ton. We found the guidebook. We had two. One was more detailed, and one was more. It gave us the incline and decline that you'd be going down on a given day, so
Oh
you'd
my
have a
gosh.
sense of how bad the walk is going to be.
So it can also give you like a walking plan
Yeah.
if you
Oh yeah.
wanted one.
Yep.
And so it's part of getting ready. Do I have to watch the movie with
yeah, that's a good
Emilio
movie.
Estefan?
Yeah, the way it is a good movie. It actually is a good sense of it. And the one thing that you'll find when you get there is that very few people are on the Camino as a spiritual pilgrimage. Most
Really?
people are on the Camino because it's one of the great walks in the world.
Wow.
And it's more of a bucket list, check off this thing on your bucket list. And it was always a surprise. I would say it's 10% of the people that walk it are on a pilgrimage.
Really?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That is fascinating.
It is.
And I'm thinking about, so at one point, believe it or not, at one point in my life, I was a runner and I ran the Disney half marathon.
Wow.
And so when you're talking about all those preparations, it was just reminding me of like the things that this ins and outs that you really do have to talk to somebody who's done it before to know really, different things about, like the idea of just a sweatshirt. You're going to drop your sweatshirt along the route. In running, you don't usually tie it around your waist. You drop it. So they're like, bring one that you don't love because you'll miss it, or you bring one that you're going to donate, which I thought was really cool. Like there's just these little things.
Yeah.
But another thing so when I went to Rio pilgrimage, one of the greatest, I think, beauties of a pilgrimage is bringing intentions with you. I had a whole notebook filled. I spent like a month before I left asking for intentions, and I brought the notebook and all of these prayer requests with me. Did you do that for your trip as well?
You know, I suppose in that sense that started in 2006. Now I went in 2016. And in 2006, my spiritual father was dying. His name was Bishop Paul Dudley. I think we mentioned him the other day. He's mentioned in the book.
Yes.
And I was able to be with him a couple of times while he was on his deathbed. And he told me, I think I mentioned this the other week, that if you have, you should always have an intention in your back pocket.
That's right.
Right?
You did say that.
Or if you stub your toe, you should use that pain for an intention. But if you're going to go through a big suffering or a big pilgrimage, for example, then you should have a big intention for it.
Wow.
And so he had planted that seed. Another friend asked me, I don't know, maybe it's around 2010 by this time or something. And she had said, would you ever do this? Yes. And then we talked about an intention that I was telling her you should have an intention. And she asked me the question that was sort of a surprise to me. She said, well, what would your intention be? And I thought, oh, hadn't thought about it. But then without missing a beat, I said my intention. It's a really personal intention, so I'm going to let that one be. But it was a huge one, right? And it was for people who had hurt me, and there's more to it. But so I just knew immediately I would pray for their souls.
Wow.
And then once I knew I was going with my stepsister, I said, wouldn't it be cool to offer a part of this? My mom had died the year before we went. And I said, wouldn't it be cool to offer this to honor our parents?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, her mom had died, which is her dad was a widower when he met my mother, who was a widow. But by this time, both my parents had died and her dad's still alive. So her mom was dead. And that wouldn't it be cool to walk for the fourth commandment to honor your father and mother?
Wow.
And so that was another one. And then there was a host of little intentions I took with me as well.
And forget about having your own intention, to have your own, like a pilgrimage, for pilgrimages, I think of like the self-discovery. You're seeking God, seeking to know God better, and our lives were a pilgrimage to heaven, right? I love that analogy. But to have that intention for yourself, I don't think I brought one for myself to Rio. So I need to go back and do it again.
Yeah, obviously. Go back on the pilgrimage again.
There's a
probably
reason
you wouldn't do it. And you probably would do it for other people again. And then one of the people who actually often is with us on these Facebook Lives is Rhonda. I don't know. I don't see her yet tonight. But one of the things, too, is don't be afraid to pick up an intention on the way. Yeah. And so I had this app called something like Journey app, and you could follow me on this app.
Oh, neat.
So you get everything in chronological order, and you could jump in anytime. And so Rhonda sent me an intention about praying for her in a difficult time in her sickness. And it happened to be the day that I walked 19 kilometers, which for me, we'll talk a little bit later about how I walked. But the 19-kilometer day for me was the height of difficulty.
Wow.
And I started at probably 5 a.m. that day. And I kept thinking, I'm never going to make it. I'm never going to make it. And I would just think of Rhonda and that, but she is in a battle much bigger than mine. And that I could make it for her. That's and beautiful. She, in a sense, she lifted me the whole way,
Oh, so, isn't it interesting that just the Christian paradox? Just sometimes these things that here you are bringing her intention to lift her, but yet
she's lifting me.
The way the prayers work, the way the Lord, He's never outdone in generosity. So we can't do things for other people and not have the Lord bless us back doubly. Amen. Not that we seek that way, but He can't be outdone in generosity. It's just impossible. So the more we try to do to bless others, the more God blesses us back. That is
Look at Jesus showing off, and St. James. It's amazing.
I love St. James. We should just do a show on James's. Just aside, and we're going to get to what I want to hear your stories about actually being there. But that line in, I think it's James 3, when he talks about the tongue, we bless and curse.
Yes,
and that we can set a whole forest fire, like a whole forest aflame with what we say, and that it can't be bridled. I'm like, ooh, I think James met my tongue.
James knew me. He knew I needed to walk, right?
He knew me well. All right, so let's talk about the actual trip. So you prepared, you have Brenda, you're good to go. You get your backpack, luckily, because your friend did it for you. And you land where? Where does this journey begin?
Yeah, we land in Paris. And then we have the next day, once we land, we take a train to this place called Bayonne. And I'm sure I'm saying that wrong. I'm sure they say it in some more deluxe French way. And then you go to Saint John, France, which is, again, I'm not saying it right. Saint-Jean. How's that? It's so bad. And it's this tiny itsy bit. So you go to Bayonne, and we stayed overnight there as well. And then you get on this train that looks more like it's a Fisher Price thing. And and you think, and then at the train station, the worst, more scary thing happens. I'm a woman of a certain age and a certain size. And then all these super fit young people come, or super fit women. There's a woman. Oh, I love her. I can't think of her name right off the top of my head. She was so tall and so fit. She was my age, but she was a gazelle. She was so beautiful. And they're all there. And I had on a boot cast. They're all looking at me like, what are you doing going on the Camino? I know, I was called. And I wouldn't be going on the Camino if I have a boot cast on. That's stupid. And my doctor said to keep the boot cast on as long as I could. He goes, you need surgery right away on your knee. And my ankle had been broken and wasn't healing. And he goes, you got to keep the boot cast on as long as you can. Because I told him I'm going to go walk the Camino. He goes, okay, keep the boot cast on as long as you can. As soon as you get home, you need knee surgery. Okay. So I dropped off my boot cast. I know, it's crazy. All these super fit people are freaking me out, and we're going to walk the Camino in a half an hour. So, they all have these giant plans, and I'm like, oh my gosh, 500 miles. Why did I ever say yes? The only good news is I definitely wasn't walking the first day because it can be so treacherous. It's this huge uphill climb and a super steep decline.
Oh.
And so people will have to go home after one day. So I would just take the bus to the second place, and Brenda would walk that. And so at the first place in Saint John, France, and however you say that, sorry to all the French people. Just not gonna, my last name is French. Don't know how to say it that way. It's Bormes to me. I left my boot cast there because they have a pilgrim station, and I figured, well, someone's going to be coming or going out of there, and they might need the boot cast. And so you can always leave things that you want to donate at these pilgrim stations, at the albergues, which is where you stay at night, kind of like a hostel, but it's called albergue. And so there it was, and this Brenda takes off for the first day. I could tell you a giant story about that, and except for it just would take too much time. But I'll say this is that she was one of the last people to get in at the place, and it had started to rain really hard while she was out there, and I was so petrified that something had happened to her because all these other people I had met had made it, and she wasn't there yet. And when she walked in, it was 6:30 in the evening. And when she walked in, I thought, we have been stepsisters at that point for 20 years, I think it was. I think it was 20 years, yeah. And but on that, when she walked in, we were sisters.
Oh,
that was it. That was my sister.
Oh.
And it turns out, by the way, the day we left, because we just made plans of when we could both leave, what an easy day for us would be. And it was June 13th when I was looking at my ticket right before getting on the plane a couple days beforehand. And all of a sudden it hit me, June 13th. We picked the day that my mom and her father got married, the day they made us sisters anyway. And it would have been their 20th anniversary. How cool is that?
Oh my gosh, that's super cool. Oh, that gives me goosebumps.
Yeah. And so here's this whole thing about walking for the fourth commandment, honoring your parents, and these sisters now. And I definitely know Brenda is my sister. Wow. She's not just, well, I just have all these other siblings. No, Brenda is my sister, and all the siblings are my siblings. Somehow that solidified everything. When my mother died, I said to my stepfather, I was the last kid to leave him after the funeral to go home. And I said to him, you have 17 kids now. And he said, well, I just figure after 20 years, you're all mine anyway.
Oh my gosh.
Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah, killing me tonight. You didn't tell me you needed tissue.
Yeah. So I start walking the second day, and we walked a shorter day because Brenda was so tired. And we get to this little teeny town. It's, all of, I don't know, 30 people probably live there. I have no idea. It's very tiny. And we're staying at this house. There's some people just rent their houses. So when you walk by, they have a thing that they'll take you, and all right, in we go.
Oh, wow.
And so I decided I would go to this little bar next door to get sandwiches for the next day. And boy, I got a lot for €5. I mean, I had tons of food for €5. We were going to eat like kings the next day. And I'm walking home back to where we were staying. And I'm in my clean clothes. And I don't have my walking sticks with me because I'm just walking. I'm walking half a block and back. And I wipe out down this hill.
Oh, no.
I slid on the mud. Didn't realize it was mud underneath this grass. And I slid and I fell. And when I got up, I thought, oh, I think I'm fine. And I get back to Brenda and I said, well, I fell. Look at all this mud on me. I had to wash these clothes and it's kind of a hassle. And but I said, I'm pretty sure I'm fine. I don't think there's anything wrong. And the next day we began walking. I started at probably 6:30 in the morning. And it's 8 kilometers uphill and then 3 down. And that would get us to Mass. And here's the word we had. Mass either starts at 10:30 or 11:30 or 11 or maybe 12. This is how nobody knew what time Mass started the next town, right? Oh, it's a couple towns down. Anyway, I'm walking the 8 kilometers, and just as I'm ready to start the descent, my stepsister, who started a couple hours later, she passes me. She's 5'2". I'm 5. I suppose I'm probably 5'9" now. I used to be 5'10". I might be 5'8.5". I don't know. It's shrinking. That's what I am. And
aren't we all?
So this tiny little, she passes me. Everybody passed me, by the way. Everybody passed me. And I'm starting this 3 kilometers downhill, and I think this is perfect. I'm going to make it. If it's 10:30, I'm going to be there. And then you start the descent, and it was slabs of rock, and there weren't footholds, and it was very steep decline. And I was so grateful. I prayed prayers of thanksgiving for the man or woman who invented the grip on the bottom of my shoes. Whoever, or the team, or whoever it was that invented the grips on the bottom of my shoes. I thought, thank God that they had this crazy passion to invent some kind of rubber that sticks. And I prayed in prayers of thanksgiving for the person who fit me with the walking sticks and the person who fit me for my backpack, because the backpack was very comfortable.
Oh.
And you have to get a fit one. I'm telling you, that is definitely, don't borrow someone's. Go get one fit. And then the sticks walking down the hill, because I would have just wiped out.
Wow.
And I was so slow going down. The uphill was so easy in comparison to the downhill. And I was so slow, and I could see the town, and I knew that mass might start at 10:30, and I heard the 10:30 bells, and I thought, I'm missing mass. It's
Oh,
Sunday. And then I thought, well, maybe it might start at 11, and the 11 o'clock bells ring, and I think, oh, I'm not even close. And it doesn't flatten out. It's just still just this steep decline, and I'm it's killing me
wow.
because my knee that needs surgery is taking this unbelievable pressure of going downhill, and I just wiped out my knee worse in this fall.
Oh, wow.
So I hear the 11:30 bells, and I'm this is impossible. What am I going to do to get to mass on Sunday? I can't miss mass.
Right.
And then it's 11:57. I get into town. My stepsister is standing there at this bridge right as you come into town, and she says to me, "You must live right." What do you mean? And she said, "Mass is at 12:15, and it's right there."
Oh my gosh.
Because
That's
this was
so
kind of yeah,
cool.
this is a bigger town. So away we go to mass there, and I had 20 minutes. I could go to the bathroom. I could wash my hands, get a glass of water, and go to mass. And I sat in the back because I was absolutely crippled. And
Mm.
as the mass goes on, everything is seizing up worse. And I hobbled to communion, and I came back to my pew. I never cried so hard in my life after
Oh,
communion. And I thought, this is the hardest I have ever worked to get to mass.
wow.
And that he was so good to me to have mass at 12:15 right there for his girl Alyssa, because I was called and I wasn't going to miss mass.
Wow.
And I just bawled my head off. It was such a Thanksgiving, which is exactly what Eucharist is. Eucharistia, Thanksgiving, right? And I felt so small and loved and big, and it just felt it was that Jesus moment, and that he had his arms around me, and I was so frightened that I would miss mass, and I was in so much pain I couldn't hurry, and that there he was, ever faithful, and it was extraordinary. And so that was a pivotal moment for me on the Camino. But then I was in so much pain. I took a cab the last 5 kilometers and met Brenda at the end of that. And the next day, we looked at the map, and there's an incline to get into Pamplona. And then once you're there, you kind of walk maybe 5. Once you're in the center of town, you're walking maybe 5 flat kilometers to get to where we were staying that night. And so I said, why don't I take a bus to the heart of Pamplona? I'll meet you at the cathedral, and then we'll walk the flat. I can walk the flat. That'll be easy. Okay, so that's what we did. And once Brenda caught up with me and we started walking the flat part, I had to stop probably every 50 feet. I was in so much pain.
Oh my gosh.
I could hardly walk the flat part, and so we got to the albergue, and I'm limping. I have to take my walking sticks to get to dinner. I
Wow.
was a
Alyssa.
wreck. And so we decided, I said, I can't walk. I hurt myself so badly. My knee it needed surgery before I wiped out.
Yeah.
And I don't know what I'm going to do. I ended up quitting walking for 3 weeks. And I kept thinking, um, that I am somehow cheating.
Oh, wow.
But I had this other part of me that thought, but God is giving you a gift. And it doesn't look like a normal gift. And all the time in my life, I would either do this. I would say, give me that gift. I want Allison's
Right.
gift. Or I don't want that gift. No. Or I'd say something, the total Minnesotan in me, oh, I couldn't possibly. Or are you kidding now? No, heck no, I can't handle that gift. Right. No, you can't give that to me. And I thought, you know what? Here's what I'm going to do that's different. I'm going to put my hands out, and I'm just going to be a humble and gracious recipient of the gift he wants to give me. And that even in the midst of this pain, there will be all sorts of gifts. And so every day I went town to town to town, meeting up with Brenda. And one of the best parts of my day was seeing Brenda. I take pictures of, I found Brenda. You know, it's whatever time. Where's Brenda? And I find her. But then all these gifts started happening. People get to know you on the Camino because you're walking with kind of the same people. They would crack up that Brenda, the blonde 5'2" gal, is a sister to the 5'9" black haired crazy woman who's not walking. Oh, you're the sisters, right? Because people would hear about the sisters, right?
Oh my gosh.
And people kept asking me, well, why don't you go home? Why didn't you go to the end and just wait for her? Why didn't you go on a different trip in Europe and then just meet her at the end? And I kept saying, because I just want to be a humble and gracious recipient of this gift. And that even in the midst of the pain, God is giving me a gift. And here's what happened every single time. Because remember, most people are not on a spiritual pilgrimage.
Oh, that's right.
This doesn't make sense to them.
Right.
Why didn't you go to the end? Go on a party. Go do this. Go sit at the beach. I said, no, I'm going. I was called to go town to town to town with my stepsister. And that I would be a humble and gracious recipient of whatever the pain was going to bring me.
Wow.
And that everybody did this. Right? And I thought, there you go. I was supposed to be right here, right now, with you, explaining that there can be a gift inside pain.
Amen.
Yeah.
So what did you like do during all those hours that everybody was walking? What were you up to?
It's such a good question. I had, I never prepared for the crazy trip. Why? Because I never walked. And Brenda would be like, oh, I just hiked, 15 kilometers today or whatever. And I'm like, I don't even know how to do that math. That could mean a mile. It could mean 20 miles. I have no idea. And I would say, well, if preparing is correcting essays, then I'm preparing, right? And I would have speeches and articles and essays to everything. I'd have all these things to correct and to do separate of working out for the Camino. And so one of the things that I got to do was what I couldn't do before. I got to linger in conversation.
Wow.
I got to linger in prayer. I got to linger over coffee. I took one thing, it's sort of like Survivor or something. I took one little thing in my backpack that was sort of a treat. And I took a little thing of needlepoint in my backpack.
Oh, wow.
And so I got to linger doing needlepoint, which, by the way, is a conversation starter.
I bet.
And so when you're doing needlepoint, people always want to come and see. And I started conversations in all kinds of languages. And people would ask me, well, what are you doing? Because you're not walking all over every language. But what are you doing? Well, I'm walking with my stepsister, but I'm not walking because I'm hurt. And there's a gift inside this pain. And everybody kept, right? It's marvelous.
That is marvelous. That's so neat. So did you try different coffees just out of curiosity?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I tried everything, and whatever the town's thing was, I'd give it a whirl. Why not? And then I met the coolest people, and plus we're meeting all the people on the Camino.
Yeah.
And I met other people that were just there. One of my favorite people I met, because he was pivotal in the whole thing as well. I met, well, let me take you back. So one of my intentions was to walk with G.K. Chesterton, that I wanted to ponder.
Oh, wow.
Chesterton, because I love him. And I wanted to ponder him. And Dale Ahlquist had just had this book together, put this book together. It was quotations from Chesterton about wisdom or something. I think that was it. The Wisdom of G.K. Chesterton, something like that. And so I took that book with me as a tiny book. And that was my one book I took with me. I took the Magnificat as well. And after you're carrying this backpack, I dropped it off. Figured I don't mind if I don't know what the mass says every day, but this is too heavy. You keep leaving things because you have to carry it all.
Oh, that's so
You
funny.
you're like, I don't need this thing. So I
And
kept
just to stop there for 1 second there, but that's just so symbolic, right? Of like the whole trip, like the whole, you're leaving pieces, the weight and that's just so, it's such a cool symbol.
Yeah,
Like,
because the physical and the spiritual match up in pilgrimages. You know, this physical effort on a pilgrimage. It's not a retreat, it's a pilgrimage. Yeah. And there is this giant physical effort. And yes, you learn to leave what you don't need and that you don't take on anything you don't need, right? You don't go and buy, I'm going to buy a souvenir in every town. No, totally not. I'll buy a souvenir at the end because I'm not lifting anything all the way from me. So I met this man, he was a priest, and I went to confession with him. And he had given me, how did I know this? I saw, all of a sudden I had a flash of a ring. And I thought, he's not just a priest, he's a bishop.
Oh.
It turns out he's a Benedictine abbot, and he is a bishop. And I can't remember his official title, but it's very deluxe. He's a German guy. And he comes 1 week a year to the Camino. And somehow after the confession, we start talking about Chesterton. Because we're just going to chat it up and, why not? And I said, well, I feel a little guilty because I'm not walking. And then I said, but my whole intention was to walk with Chesterton. And he says to me, well, of course he wouldn't walk.
That's what I was just thinking.
And I'm like, yeah. And he goes, of course, what he would be doing is going town to town to town by a train or a car or some manner of transportation, right? And he would be lingering in prayer, in conversation, over coffee, over a drink.
Yes.
He would be lingering. And I thought, well, there you go. I'm on the Camino with Chesterton. Isn't that great?
That needs to be your next book.
Yeah.
On the Camino with Chesterton.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
I love that. Sign me up, please.
Good. Yeah.
That would be deluxe, as you say.
It was deluxe. It was deluxe.
That word.
And we met such unbelievable people. And then here's the thing. I would linger in prayer one day in a church. I remember I get to this church, and it's the ancient church, and it has keys. Okay, wait, you can't see me. They're giant keys. They're huge. They're this big. You can't tell how big, right? They're gigantic keys. The key is as big as my arm, as my forearm, right? Giant keys. And the church had 2 of these giant keys that had to be put in at the same time, right? I get there when the guy is opening the church with these giant keys. It's so stinking cool.
Neat.
And now I'm in there praying, and I thought, I got nothing to do. I'm going to linger here in prayer. And a little bit later, I'll get a cab and go to the next town. And so I'm there lingering in prayer. And these 2 women that we met on the Camino in the town previous come in, and they see me sitting there. And they go, the one woman says, oh, Alyssa, you're just who we want to see. Really? How come? Well, one of them was a Catholic who was just coming back to the faith. And the other was a Protestant woman who was kind of on a pilgrimage, but not exactly, right? It was her own sort of pilgrimage because, anyway, it's different. And so she asked this other gal who was Catholic and had just come home about the Eucharist. And why, if we believe it's the body, blood, soul, and divinity of Christ, why on earth would we need to receive it more than once? It's a great question.
That is a great question.
Yeah.
I've heard of that
and so the one Catholic gal didn't know the answer. And I said, well, I don't exactly know the answer either. No one calls me Aquinas. You know what I'm saying? It's not Alyssa Aquinas. And I said, well, here's the reason for me. Is that I do believe that it's the body, blood, soul, and divinity of Christ, and it lacks nothing.
Mm-hmm.
But some days I can only receive a sliver of it spiritually because of my heart. And some days I can receive a little bit more because my heart is more open. But my heart has never been perfectly open. And it's me, the receiver, that has a fault. And so his generosity is to offer it to me again, to take it all the way.
Wow.
But my soul is wounded by sin and by everything that wounds you. My soul is wounded, and my soul lacks faith. My soul is, there's work to be done, right? And so I
Yeah.
only take in some of him, and he's so good to me to allow me another shot. And I said, then the other thing is, part 2 is this: I love him. And the thing I want to do more than anything is to be with the one I love.
Amen.
And to receive him. That a jillion times can't be enough, because I love him. And the woman who's Catholic said, that's perfect. I never would have known how to say it.
Yeah.
And the Protestant woman said, I never thought of that. And I thought, well, there you go. Jesus needed me right here, right now, broken, physically and spiritually, to answer this question.
That was so Chesterton of you.
Thank you.
I'm serious.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That's the thing, is that in our brokenness, we can evangelize. In our broken, not in spite of it, but right from within it, we can evangelize right from within it.
Oh, I was thinking about this talk I heard from this sweet little nun, Sister Olga. She's Armenian. She's like, or Iraqi, from Iraq. She's like 4'2". She's adorable.
Cute.
And she's very much like Mother Teresa in her mannerisms. But she used to say, we receive the Eucharist because we are what we eat.
Yeah. Amen.
Oh, I've heard that before, but just the way she would say it, she would very demure and sweet. Love that woman. I haven't heard from her in years. Anyway, let's see. So we're on this journey. We're taking this, different ways, but you're just encountering, you're lingering.
Yeah.
So then I
finally start walking again.
Oh yeah.
I probably didn't walk for 3 weeks, and there was a day when I thought, hey, my knee doesn't really hurt that bad today. And I said to Brenda, you know what? I'm going to start walking again, but not tomorrow, because my knee might go out. If I'm going to walk, I'm going to walk the last 100 kilometers, actually the last 116 kilometers. So I waited one more day and started. And then if I failed, I gave it a shot of walking the last part, but I actually walked the last 116 kilometers. Wow. I was the slowest person on the Camino. And I only legitimately passed one person, but she was walking uphill backward. And I'm sure she passed me on the way down anyway. But I never passed anyone. And people would stop and ask me in many languages. They would say, are you okay? Because I would be walking so slow. And I figured out how to say bad knee in a few different languages. Right. And then pointing, of course. And then there was a Spanish woman who gave me a nickname, La Tortuga, the turtle, right? And that I loved it.
That's awesome.
And luckily, it was a word I remembered from my junior high or high school Spanish, Tortuga. I don't know why. So it was super funny to me. I laughed, and she loved it.
I don't think I ever learned that. And El Gato.
So yeah, the cat. Nobody called me the cat.
No one called you. No, not unless you were curled up in the sun on the side. Just kind of.
And I'm going to tell you 2 things about walking. One day, so you're walking through cow pastures, and then you're walking through a city, and then you're walking through whatever. And this actually happened early on before I fell. But we were walking, and I loved how the slugs, they had the coolest looking slugs on the trail. They were so stinking cool. And then the other thing is, you were dancing around cow patties. And do you know what that is?
I do.
Poop.
So in New England, just for we actually in New England, we play games where you can you put like things out in the pasture, and if your cow poops on it, you win money.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Yeah. I will throw a cow patty if it's dried up or frozen. I'm not afraid. and just a
I'm
little,
not afraid of no cow poop.
not afraid of cow patty. So anyway, we're walking around cow patties, and then you see the most beautiful trees, you hear the sheep off on that other hill, and then you see cows, and then you see these cool slugs, and then the moss on the trees are more beautiful than you've ever seen in your life. And
Wow.
and at certain points I was completely alone because I had started so early, right? And or people would pass me so quickly. Goodbye. I can't see them anymore because they're so fast. And so I'd be the only person around. And I thought, here I am. The cow patties made me think that I'm on the Camino and I'm moving towards Santiago. And here I am, the glory of creation, and that in everything I can see right now, I'm the peak of creation.
Wow.
Because he made us, right, man and woman, right? And that we're the peak of creation, and that all these beautiful trees, the mountains, the sheep, the bells on the sheep, the cow patties, the slugs, the moss, everything, the rocks were so cool. That all of that was in the midst of the Camino, but they're not on the Camino. No cow is seeking its cowness, right? Every cow is perfectly happy with its cowness. It's not seeking beyond itself. And that I was the peak of creation. I was the only one on the Camino, seeking him. And here I was broken, and I was still the peak of creation. Is that fantastic?
That is fantastic.
Yeah.
That's beautiful stuff. I'm really struck by the fact that the Camino, in my head, it was like a boardwalk.
Yeah. Yeah. In your head, it is.
It's like when I went to the Great Wall of China.
You travel over all sorts of different paths. And some towns are really proud of their little Camino path, and they'll have it paved with cool bricks and stuff. And then you're in a cow pasture, and then you're walking down a hill with slabs of rock or gnarled tree roots that there's not one place to put your foot flat. And then you're walking over some bridge in the complete dark at 5 a.m. That's really just these poles sticking up out of this little creek. And you have to cross that, and you're thinking, this seems like a bad idea, but that's where the arrow points. And that the path is so varied and at times very treacherous.
Wow.
But
I had no idea.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I was gonna say we went to China, went to adopt my daughter. You have to go to Beijing first. They want you to sightsee, spend your money. See, it's a true story. And so they bring us to the Great Wall. And in my head, this is just I have like, I'm gonna walk across the top. It'll be very cool. There was an elevator, but it was way over there and we weren't there. And it's these little teeny tiny uneven stairs. It's just I went up far enough to say, hey, I'm on the Great Wall, take my picture, I'm coming back down. But just I think their perception, I guess, is the point of that. It's like our perception until you experience something, until you answer that call and come out of your comfort zone, because this is way out of, I'm sure, most people's comfort zone. Any kind of pilgrimage, you don't know the beauty that awaits you there. You don't know the blessings that await you there. And it's very rarely what you imagine. Sometimes it's a little more treacherous than you imagine, but there's always so many blessings. So you walked the final leg of it.
I walked the final 116 kilometers.
Wow.
We got to Santiago. We walked the last, I don't know how many kilometers, let's say 10, early in the morning. We could have walked it the day before, but we wanted to come in to Santiago we heard there's something like a 7:30 a.m. mass at the cathedral that we wanted to go to. So we walked in alone, not in a crowd. And we went to this mass at Santiago. And some people find it sort of disappointing getting there because you think, shouldn't there be more fireworks? But I didn't. I loved going to this quiet mass.
Oh,
and I thought, this is how it really all started, sort of in the quiet Bethlehem, in the quiet my quiet baptism. And there's so many quiet things where Jesus is on fire, right? And the Holy Spirit's just working in the quietness. And here he had brought me to this tiny side chapel in the quiet of a 7:30 in the morning. We were really, I think, the only two pilgrims there at that time, and that his glory was just everywhere. And I thought back to that mass that I worked so hard to get to, and thought, even on this day, I worked really hard. As we came into the edge of Santiago, my knee sort of told me again, we're finished. You have those last kilometers, and then we're really finished again. And I did come home and I did get surgery on my knee. I came right home and got surgery. But so arriving was just this gratitude and joy. And then we were met by Brenda's dad, my stepdad, and his name is James. And he came and met us on the Feast of St. James.
What?
And he was 85 that year. And I thought, I wonder if his parents at his baptism thought, you know what, I bet on his 85th birthday, he'll probably have 17 kids by then, and 9 of his own, 8 of this other woman who he just takes on, and then his own oldest daughter, and the youngest daughter of everybody, or the youngest kid, by the way, I'm the baby. They're going to walk the Camino, and then he'll come and meet them, and he'll be there on the Feast of St. James and be with the relics of St. James on that. No one can imagine this.
Oh my God.
His parents never thought anything about the baptism. And he was baptized in the same church that both Brenda and I had been baptized in. And our parents didn't even know each other.
What?
Is that so crazy?
That's such a coincidence. I love those.
And then here we were now with St. James at the end of the journey with his relics. And I thought, James and St. James, and that one day they meet in heaven and go, wasn't that cool? Was that a cool day when he came to visit me, and the whole Camino thing and my feast day and everything? And it was remarkable. And then the thing also is leaving.
Yeah.
And one thing when you leave is, the first night in your own bed is glorious, just your own bed.
I can't imagine.
But then you find that you have a willingness to get rid of things.
Really?
You are happy. If someone comes over, you're going to leave with a parting gift, because I'm going to give it to you, because why not? Why not give things away? Just why not?
Wow.
And then one thing is, you realize you'll never leave the Camino, that it's always with you.
Wow.
And that you're on this pilgrimage. You're going to meet St. James. You're going to meet Jesus, Mary, Joseph. You're going to meet them all. And that I like to say that I have walked the Camino and not walked the Camino. Right? And here I am. It was quite a pilgrimage to walk it and to not walk it and to walk it. I was on the Camino the whole way.
That's amazing. Mm-hmm. And we're still on it.
And still on it, yeah.
And there's days in my life I'm not walking it. There's days I'm not on it, and I need to be on it.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, that's the thing too. And that you have to walk it wounded. And then I think back to that that this window of opportunity came. This person to walk it with, Brenda, my stepsister. We picked a day, we bought a ticket, we had it. And when I look back, I think that was the only time I could have gone.
Wow.
When I came back, I had knee surgery. A month and a half after that, I was in a car accident and needed a new shoulder from that. I couldn't even, there's no possible way I could have lifted that backpack on me.
Wow.
This summer, I had another surgery on my ankle, arch, and heel. And I think that was the window of opportunity.
Yeah.
And when God calls you, will you say yes? Or will you say, later? Don't bother me with this. And you can have a
million excuses. When I got called to go on the World Youth Day, I sat in prayer and I said, Lord, it's $8,000. If you want me to go, you're going to have to find it. Not only did we did fundraising, I went with the deaf apostolate. I went with a deaf priest to learn how to sign the mass for my daughter. not only did I get to go, but my son went with us too.
Wow.
And he is no longer practicing his faith. He's really struggling with it. But I know that God called him to that and touched him in ways I'll never understand. And he'll call him back again.
Amen.
Like that was a very special moment. And it's not by accident you ever get called on a pilgrimage.
No.
You know, in his story, he had brought headphones, but he decided that during a pilgrimage, not only do you bring intentions, but you usually bring a sacrifice. What am I going to sacrifice? So he had heard that during a homily, and so he decided he wouldn't listen to music. He brought his iPod at the time.
Whatever.
He's like, I'm not going to, this is going to be my sacrifice.
Yeah.
And he ended up not hiding it well enough. Third world country doesn't know these kind of things, and it gets stolen.
Wow.
And he's like, I went for the little sacrifice, but God called me to a bigger one. I'm like, it's like the chicken and the pig for breakfast.
Perfect.
One for the little, one's all in.
Yeah. Amen.
So I'm just so grateful that you shared your story with us tonight, Alyssa. I can't believe the hour is already gone.
Right.
But just so many illuminations, and I hope that I see a lot of people saying they're going to watch the replay.
Yes.
I really hope people share their own pilgrimage stories. We'd love to put them up on wine on our wine.
Oh, that'd be great.
It would be wonderful. We have Fruitful Friday, which we've kind of not been using very much. So if anybody wants to share their pilgrimage story, send it to me, Allison@CatholicVineyard.com, and we'll share these stories. These are beautiful. I mean, and this is our life. Our life is a pilgrimage to God.
I just want to say one more thing, Alice. It just popped in my head. And why not go overtime? Because, why not? I had met this woman. I'm not going to tell you the whole story. I told you the whole story the other day. But I had met this woman who had to quit walking the pilgrimage. And she didn't want to, and she was really angry. And I ran into her. And she said this, and I think this is maybe the way to close.
Yeah.
Because she said, I'm going to go to Santiago, and I'm going to make them give me the Compostela because I deserve it. And she couldn't walk the last 100 kilometers because she was so wounded and she had to go home. And she was a little older than I am, in her mid-60s. And so I listened to her whole story. It was so remarkable. We should have another hour just for that, but we'll let it be. But I said, after I listened to her whole story, I said to her this, I promise I said these words: it is finished. And you have to go home. And what she said back to me in the midst of the conversation was, Alyssa, I know this. You are the only person in the world who could tell me to go home. And that God had us meet right now.
More goosebumps.
And that she said, I will never forget you in this moment. And I'll never forget her in that moment. And that here I was, she had walked, it's 500 miles. I don't get how it's 800 kilometers or something like that. And she had walked to the last 100 kilometers. She'd walked 700 kilometers slowly and was so injured. I was injured and walked the last 100 kilometers, and she was complaining in her rant. Some people only walk the last 100 kilometers, except for that she knew I was one of them.
Wow.
And then when I told her it's finished, you have to go home, and saying, you're the only one who could tell me that. God puts you where you're supposed to be. And will you answer his call? And will you work with him? And will you accept the gifts he gives you with open hands and be a humble and gracious recipient? And then offer those gifts to other people. And I'll never forget her. I'll never forget that moment. And so again, we just come back to, I have walked and not walked and walked the Camino. And it's marvelous.
And I would like to stop there, but I need to know what it is that you get at the end. What is it she wanted? I don't know what that is.
I should have found it and pulled it out. It's the Compostela. It's just a piece of paper that says you walked it. And then you have this thing the whole way. It's this passport thing. And I think I filled up 2 of them. My stepsister might have had 3. Wow. And you get stamps along the way. And each of these stamps are registered. And so then you can tell them where you started walking, but then they super check the last 100 kilometers, and you have to have, I think 2 or 3 stamps a day, so they know you went through these tiny little places. I'm sure people still cheat, but you have this passport that proves you walked the Camino. And so Brenda says she walked however many jillion kilometers, and mine says I walked 116 kilometers.
Wow.
And so you get this thing, it's called the Compostelo. And you go to the pilgrim office in Santiago, and they give you that. And it is cool to get it, because you just stand there like, I got this thing. And I don't know. There's this, it's this gratitude and victory and humbleness, and it's something else. So if God's calling you to the Camino and St. James wants to see you, get going.
Amen. Whatever he's calling you to. Oh,
Amen.
I hope everybody will share. Everyone's got a pilgrimage story, because you can go to pilgrimage right in your own backyard.
Yes.
So I hope people will start sharing their pilgrimage story, sending to Allison@catholicvineyard.com, or put them here in the comments, and we would love to hear your stories. And Alyssa, thank you for having this wonderful idea and for sharing. You have to spend more time with us. We're gonna I just want to catch everybody up real quick that we're going to put off Rhonda's book, the next Bible book club, to January. We have some other fun things. We really wanted to focus on Gaze Upon Jesus in Advent. So instead of trying to squish everything in, because we just had so much fun with Catechism of Hockey with Alyssa this summer, we're going to be rolling out something very, very special for October. It might have a little something to do with the month of October, what we call that here in the Catholic world, but we'll get to that later.
I know.
We really, really wanted to give that some special attention, and we want to make sure we just love our Gaze Upon Jesus in Advent. Last year it came out. It's a wine book, and we just felt like we didn't give it enough love last year. But Rhonda's book, which is incredible, Reading Between the Signs, we will do in January before Lent. So anyway, that's for catching us up where we're at. And so I was thinking of each week, between now and our next study, maybe just having a guest and doing some chatting. So maybe, Alyssa, we can talk you into coming back.
I laugh at, if you're offering a spotlight, I'm there.
Maybe we can do a little Chesterton. I don't know very much about him, and I'd love to hear some more about Chesterton. All right. We will get to that. Would you like to close us in prayer, my friend? Thank you.
In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. I just, a prayer of gratitude for St. James and him calling us, and Jesus calling us. What a gift to be called. And how humble we have to be to hear the calling. And so today, to pray in thanksgiving for the call, the humility to hear the call, and that we have the future humility as well to hear all the calls yet to come. Jesus, call our names and give us the humility to say, here I am. And that we go in haste when you call. And then to entrust this to the woman who went in haste, Mary. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, my friend. And thank you, everybody who spent the time with us.
Yes, thank you.
Listening and rebroadcast. Make sure you leave us a comment and some feedback. God bless. Thanks, Alyssa.
Good night.
Good night.